We are live.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. It's exciting to be live, to be here.
Yeah.
Today is the Chinese day of Qu Tzu, which I hope I said that right. Sorry to Chinese speakers. It is what's called the end of heat. So it really officially is the last day of the summer reel and the start of the late summer or earth season.
Okay. So
There we are.
Again, we have slightly different versions of that because we in Ayurveda or Vedic, we are in the middle of late summer. And we won't hit, we're in the second month of it. So we won't hit our next season till about September 15th.
And welcome, Victoria. Nice to see you here.
And Ovia. I hope I said that right. So let's introduce the topic and let's introduce ourselves. Why don't you go first this time, because I'm trying to figure out where everything is on the computer.
Wonderful. Well, today we're going to be talking about pain, which is something that maybe doesn't get talked as much about in perimenopause and menopause in the sort of wider social media, but it affects almost half of women going through this transition. And that pain isn't an occasional, it can be chronic. So today and there's lots of different types of pain, as we maybe all know, but we thought we'd start our conversations about joint pain, which is very prevalent.
Joint pain, yes, absolutely. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
I will. I was going to say I am Clarissa. I am a Chinese medicine practitioner. I specialize in Chinese dietary therapy and also Qigong, with a strong emphasis on women and women going through perimenopause, menopause, and the next stage of life. And for this topic, I would say, which I haven't said before, is that 15 years ago, I trained as a mindfulness-based pain management practitioner. So I've worked with a lot of women with very significant pain issues, rheumatic, fibromyalgia, and very severe gynecological pain. So helping women alongside other allopathic and Ayurvedic and Chinese medicine practitioners to help people meet and manage this area. Because it isn't just about getting rid of the pain. It's also finding a way to live well before it decides to recede.
Yes. Clarissa, it's so wonderful. Every single time we speak, I get to know a new version of you or a new whole of you. And that's true for anyone who's lived 5-6 decades. There's going to be many aspects, and it's really worthwhile exploring. And we never throw out anything, the good, the bad, and it all becomes incorporated into who we are today. And that kind of includes the pain too, which we'll get to in a moment. And the reason I say that is because when I was working as a massage therapist, that's basically what we're looking at is pain, whether it's muscle pain or joint pain or visceral pain. Visceral means in the inner organs of the body. And so, yeah, it's a big topic again. And I also am hoping to take one step back in terms of what pain is itself, because I've been going into all sorts of more metaphysical spaces on pain itself. And, pain is not, well, let me introduce myself first. And then I'll go there. So my name is Chitra, and I am a doctor of Ayurveda. And I write The Art of Menopause. Clarissa is Heart of Menopause. I'm Art of Menopausing because we're menopausing for the rest of our lives, basically. But we don't have to suffer from it. We just are aware that the menses have stopped for good. But there are things that go along with it. So, so pain, in Sanskrit, the word, and anyone who is Buddhist will know what this word is. Pain is dukkha in Sanskrit. And pain, when you're a Buddhist, you're mostly talking about suffering. But it's really dukkha in Sanskrit really means bad space. Sukha, the opposite, means good space or happy space, or
Yeah.
so anything that is bad space is pain. It is painful when whatever it is bad. So sometimes pain is emotional, sometimes it is in the mind. And when we're talking about pain and menopause, we're mostly referring to pain in the body, but it doesn't have to be. And sometimes it's a continuation of habits and situations that you've had before in life. So, if we're going to refer to PMS and all the pains from that, if that doesn't get managed properly, then the possibility exists that you're going to have cramps during perimenopause and beyond. And the thing about pain is that it's also subjective, right?
Yes.
So that's really important, that we need to live in our power and say, okay, I have pain. You don't have to justify or look for where it is or what it is or how bad it is. Just naming it and standing in the power begins the healing process of looking at that bad space and seeing what can be done about it, because it's the body or mind or relational cry for help.
It is. And
Something is wrong.
it's always that. It's always that, Chitra. It's always that something, in a Chinese medicine term, is out of balance. Pain is not normal. We should not be feeling it on a chronic level. We may feel the pain if we stab our toe or something. That's temporary. But once it passes and it goes on and on for several weeks, months, or for some people years, then that is a cry that there's something out of balance in the body. And we need to address the imbalance or imbalance in the mind, because emotions do definitely give rise to pain that manifests in the body, or our inability to maybe meet certain situations. And so where the pain is our holding on and not releasing of that situation.
Right, exactly. So, I'm even going to say one step beyond that. Pain is normal. It's not so much that it's normal, but it is common. So children have growing pains, right? It's the space and the matter are changing their relationships. So if there's extra growth, or if there's extra, what's the opposite of growth? What's the word?
Shrinkage.
Shrinkage happens with age, right? If there's additional shrinkage, or if there's a change in the shape itself, whether it is a hollow vessel or non-hollow vessel, it's going to happen. The thing that we have to understand, though, is because it is pain, it's always moving. It's a frequency, it's a vibration of sorts. So the body signals pain, and we pay attention. It also requires our attention, right? So listening to it requires our attention, but we can't pay attention to it all the time, right?
Yeah.
So, otherwise, and when we do pay attention to it all the time, that is a severe pain, and that's
Yes.
one of the reasons.
Yes.
That's one of the reasons why most women forget the actual pain of pregnancy and giving birth, right? We forget about it. Otherwise, if we didn't forget, we would never do it a second time, right? So,
No.
not that I've
No.
experienced it.
No. And that is definitely temporary. But I think that when we have a pain that goes on, it can overwhelm our lives. And I've seen that with the patients I've worked with. It becomes all consuming and it somehow takes on a life of its own and it starts to really feel like it's at 100% all of the time. And yet it may fluctuate through a day according to the activities, the time of day. And some of those things are about us learning to be able to meet it and understand it and at times being able to soften it. Because sometimes if you have a pain in your hip, it doesn't necessarily mean it's in your foot. You know, it can be, but it might not be. And so learning to work with it is an important part of learning to be able to live with it too.
Yes. And this is why sometimes if we have a chronic pain, we forget about it during the day or during an activity. And then when we relax or go to sleep, then our mind goes naturally to it. So there's so many varieties of pain, and the medical allopathic system, what it does is it tends to, if it cannot find an immediate X-rayable, that's the word I'm going to use, or MRIable, or something that they can pinpoint is the cause, the physical cause of it, then they're going to discount it, even to the point of calling women who are in menopause, who've stopped their menses,
Mm-hmm.
um, they call and who have cramping. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they call that phantom
Yeah.
cramping. And that is such a dishonor and disrespect and gaslighting for women and pain. So I think that what we're trying to say here is that if you have pain, it is a call, it is a cry, it is pay attention, something has shifted. And it may be a good shift, like as in growing pains, right? But highly likely it's not. And sometimes if it's a structural type of thing, as we get to joints,
Yeah.
sometimes it's, um, this is something really interesting that I studied uh, while I was doing massage and yoga. In terms of anatomy, we tend to take on habits of walking and standing and sitting, that we start at a very young age and move forward. And sometimes, if you watch, you will find a child walking with their parent, and the parent has a hip problem, and so the child will walk as if they have the hip problem.
Interesting.
When
Interesting.
Yeah. So as that child gets older, the body has shifted. And the body is balanced to be upright. That's how we've evolved. So what happens is that certain muscles, certain joints start being degenerated while others get strengthened.
Mm.
And so while there's no injury to that child, just that imitation will later show up as a pain. And during, and when you're 35, 40, 50 years old, when we're hitting prime menopause time where things are changing, that's when we're going to feel those tiny shifts in our posture. So there's a lot to be said about looking at posture and looking at the balance of the body itself and looking at movement, which is why Qigong is phenomenal, which is why yoga is phenomenal, and massage is phenomenal, and chiropractor. So all of those things work, and acupuncture has been studied and is one of the best things for pain out there.
Absolutely. I mean, acupuncture is phenomenal for pain. It really is. It can really bring quite fast relief to pain. And then you can work deeper and deeper into the layers of where the pain comes from. But if you have pain and you want to try and kickstart a process in Chinese medicine terms to getting that pain shifted, then I'm a strong advocate for some acupuncture sessions, because it will start to get the stagnations, which are often at the root of a lot of pain. But maybe we should get into the joint pain and some of the reasons as to why this becomes such an issue. Maybe we'll start with the allopathic. The allopathic would say it's a decline in estrogen. So we get, less estrogen attached to the receptors. It affects the joints and you get pain. But that isn't quite the way that Ayurveda or Chinese medicine would talk about it.
Right. The other thing that they're now saying, it's because of the estrogens fluctuating or coming down, collagen production also isn't happening. So that also contributes. And this is what they're saying. But again, same thing is happening in men, because men wake up in the morning at 40 and all of a sudden it's like, oh, my back, my neck, my leg, my hip. So it's not a female thing necessarily.
No.
It is a universal thing. And within Ayurveda, we're looking at these ages of life, that in the middle of your life, you're in Pitta age, meaning everyone is in Pitta age, no matter what their intrinsic balance of dosha. Dosha are archetypal bioenergetic constitutions. So we're in our Pitta stage, which means fire is happening. And if you've ever had anything on fire, eventually it will dry out and become ash.
Yeah.
And so what happens is that we are on fire. We are in a time of light where we're bright, we're moving, we've got challenges, we're dealing with the challenges. And then we go into, later on, we start drying out.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're looking at it from a drying out space, in general, in terms of joints. But from an Ayurvedic perspective, we're looking at it from a lot more than just the dry space. And I'll talk about that a little later.
The Chinese medicine would say there's probably 3 quite different reasons, yet they can be interconnected, of course. The first is what we call kidney yin deficiency. So yin energy in the body is moist and cool. And if you lose that, you're going to be more yang, you're going to be hotter, and you're going to be drier. So it's very likely you're going to notice that in the joints. And the kidney system in Chinese medicine, which obviously is the kidneys and the adrenals and the reproductive organs, but it has sub parts to the body. And one of those is bone, and also in particular your knees. So if you're in perimenopause or menopause and your knees have started to feel stiff and achy and they start popping, kidney yin deficiency. And of course, you feel like you're drying out. Well, because we are. The other is liver, and liver blood, what we call liver blood deficiency. And that will make you feel like you're weak in your joints, kind of like they don't have any nourishment to them. They feel kind of weak and achy. And the other is that you can have a chi and blood stagnation. So literally the fluids that are meant to flow in your body have stagnated. And when they do that, you get a sense of pain that is sharp, localized, like stabby pain. So those, from that perspective, are those things that can occur. And because it's very common, obviously, for us to be kidney deficient, that's the symptom that nearly every woman will have. It's not one. But we, because of our diet, our stress, our overwork, so many of us are liver chi stagnation and blood deficient as well. These are very common, but they're more related to women's overwork, stress, and emotional holding on to things.
Interesting. So that kidney yin is closer to kapha. And in Ayurveda, we're going to look at pain from a pain perspective itself. Beyond there are about 7 different categories. No, there are 7 different aspects of pain that we look at, and one of those aspects is location, which is the location of the joints, and the joints can be any place. In Ayurveda, the word in Sanskrit is sandhi. Any place where 2 bones connect, or 2 muscles connect, or 2 tendons, tendon to bone, 2 vessels connect. So, but we're going to focus on these bigger joints, right? It could be elbow, and a lot of times it's the spine as well. We have to look at. So in Ayurveda, we say that pain is always Vata. It's always the dry, cold aspect, but it's always about ether and air as the elements. And so joint pain, the bones are Vata. They're a home of Vata, and the pelvis is a larger home of Vata. And the skull is a home of Vata. But what Vata does is it governs movement. So if movement is stagnant, if movement is blocked, or if there is too much movement, you're going to have a problem with Vata, and it's going to cause some sort of pain. Now, it's not, sometimes it's Vata alone, but usually there's a secondary or tertiary dosha that happens along with it. So the next form of pain, and this is what Western holistic understanding looks at, and they say inflammation, right? Inflammation causes pain, whether it's in the joints or not. It's the movement. So what's happening is that Vata mixed with Pitta is going to create fire in a joint. A joint is supposed to be soft and gushy, right? So it's supposed to have this padding. So all of that dries out the bursa, and it's going to create pain, dryness, and then eventually the 2 bones will rub on each other and create pain. The thing is that pain, remember we said attention is required. Pain also, depending on where in the body the pain is, you're going to get a different sensation. And there are various different types of pain. So the body has nerve tissue. So the nerve tissue is somewhat inflamed, but the tissue itself is inflamed in those areas, and the body doesn't have the same amount of nerve endings on all parts of the body. So on some place like the knee joint or the hip joint, which is required for survival when we were, running for our lives away from tigers and bears,
Yes.
we needed those. The biggest thing that we would die from is from a thigh bone or a hip fracture because we
Yes.
could not move, right? But today, those joints are incredibly painful. And if we go back to those habits in the knees, right? So the knee is only supposed to move this way. It's not
Yes.
supposed to turn. It's not
No.
supposed to bend in any other way. So
No.
anytime you use that in a different way than this way, you're
Yes.
going to cause an inflammation problem. The
Yes.
second
Yes.
thing about pain in Ayurveda is that another classification is Vata with Kapha, right? So Kapha is your kidney yin energy. It is the earth element. It is the water
Yeah.
element. So when kapha is involved, then we're going to see a different type of pain. It's going to be a dull pain. Whereas with a pitta, it's going to be a fiery, sharp pain. And vata alone, it's going to be irregular. It's going to be there sometimes. It's going to move around throughout the body. And then there's the third type where all three are involved. And that's really like a dam that is just bursting at the seams. And
Yeah.
your body is the banks of the river, and it's bursting to go right through whatever barrier it is. So we're looking at it from that perspective, and each one of these have their own unique, even no matter what the location is, it has its own unique way to manage it. It's got its own unique way to look at it. And sometimes you have to back it out, but you're always going to have to deal with Vata, no matter what, whether it is Kapha or Pitta or all of them.
Yeah. So I would say that in the Chinese medicine, it's water and wood are the two elements, because the wood is connected to the liver system, but it's the tendons and sinews of the body. And, we always refer back to nature. So if you were a tree that was well grounded and it blew in the wind, like I have big trees here, they bend in the wind. They bend the tops of the wind. They survive. But when they dry out or they're no longer grounded and rooted, well, then they're upended. And that's a little where we are, that we are often not grounded. And so our tendons are also not supporting us in the right way. And then we are more likely to feel pain. We're not able to move. And you mentioned not twisting knees. This is why when Qigong, we're so precise. People think I'm very pedantic when I teach, but I'm like, move slowly. You move this foot, then you move this foot. You're always soft. Every joint in the body must be soft, partly because qi doesn't flow in straight lines very well, but also that you cause minimum injury to the body. You work within what the body's capacity is. So if you can't bend forward and scoop up from the earth without it, can you just do it from where you are? You're always working within the body's compounds. And I think a lot of people are over-exercising, overstraining the body, and they're not listening to its capacity, because we've got to be able to, Olympic weightlift over our heads or whatever it is we think we need to do. And so this moving with the body's own ability, with its breaths, honoring that there's liver and wood energy going on, which is flow, always flow. Everything is in circles and flow. So we're learning to move that way. We're learning to honor that. And we also have extraordinary vessels, which, just to confuse you, because if you think I'm talking about meridians and you hear things like, we have these 8 vessels. You couldn't see them because they're energetic, but they have a big part to play in our pain management systems. And they travel up the body, down the back of the body. They come up the body, up the breasts to the eyes. They're round the belt here, which is very important for back and hip pain. And when chi isn't flowing there as well, when there's stagnation, things are stuck, then we will feel pain as well, not just because it's the organ, but also that the extraordinary vessels are blocked in some way, and they're meant to be free for energy to flow.
You know, I do the same thing with my yoga practice. Or when I teach yoga, actually. These days, they don't want you to touch people, but first thing I do in class is I'm going to touch you and and help you feel what you need to do, or move you in such a way that your knees and your hips and your feet are supported, or your shoulders are appropriate, because we've gotten into these habits and we don't know. And in yoga, you're either moving things through very quickly, and that's going to provide a different kind of pain. But when you're doing as we age, many women are doing yin yoga, and they're holding on to their postures for a lot longer. And that in and of itself can create more pain, the holding of it, especially if the body isn't aligned properly. So body alignment is not just the bones being aligned properly, but it is the muscle holding on to the joint, the bursa, the tendons, all that whole structure of support has to be done properly. And then there's, of course, the adipose tissue, the fat that is around that too, which also can move things out of alignment. So when we talk weight management in the future, that also is weight in and of itself can be a cause of pain. And interestingly enough, when I was a massage therapist, I found that people who carried more weight initially did not feel pain. They would feel it in the joints. But as they lost weight, they would find that they would be in more pain. It was almost as if the fat itself was buffering, which is what we would say in Ayurveda, because the fat is a kapha element, in water and earth. So it is tamping down that fire and the movement, so that you're not moving as much. The vibration in the
That's right. Yes. Yeah. And I think that point of alignment, because we work a lot on alignment as part of the Qigong. So it's, we're working to have a very nice, relaxed up posture. Our heads are pointed to the heaven, and the byway is pointed, the Hua Yin, which is out. It's like you've got to pull a little head string and come up. So we are all the time working in that alignment. And, we think Qigong's all flowy movements, but you sometimes are holding quite strong movements for long periods of time, and your body can often come out of alignment. So this working in alignment is an important part, and it's important for us because it's also about our presence in the world. If we're slumped and this and that, we're not standing tall and in our power almost. So there is a point, and it's hard when people have pain, because some of those things go and they tend to sort of crunch in, which has an emotional component to it. And you feel crushed by your pain sometimes.
So I'm wondering if anyone has any questions up until at this point in time, because I'd like to get into some solutions for pain. We're halfway through, and what we're hearing out of holistic healthcare, and less traditional pain management. people, that they have their own understanding. I'd like to touch a little bit on them. And then let's go into the Ayurvedic and TCM, pain management. Yes. Yes.
So if anyone has any questions or any comments, definitely. Or approaches that you use that might be working, or something that's worked for you in the past.
Yes, exactly. Because we each have, pain is an alert system.
It is.
It's a siren. There's a
sign that something is
somewhere.
Changing here. Something isn't what it once was. Yes.
Yeah. So, let's talk. Usually in allopathic medicine, we're talking some sort of NSAID, Tylenol. You guys call it different in Europe. Tylenol,
aspirin, paracetamol, whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
Yes. Ibuprofen.
And those are, they work for short periods of time, and I'm not going to put those down.
No.
But there might be something else, that might work even better from the homeopathic community, like arnica. Arnica, what that does is it helps move blood. So it works within the same framework as Ayurveda and TCM looks at.
Yeah.
It's okay. So we're moving the stagnation of the blood. And therefore the blood will bring nutrients to the affected area and whatnot. It'll stop bruising. It'll do all kinds of things. But beyond that, again, and if you get the arnica, and if you are able to feel arnica, because many people don't, if you've been taking Tylenol or stronger medications for pain, you're not going to feel the arnica. And that might be true for almost all of the methodologies that we're going to describe. So if you've been using a sledgehammer to deal with the pain, you're not going to feel the gentle touch because you need that extra strong thing. You're going to have to back off.
Yeah.
Off of
and that's true of the allopathic, that you may start on a small dose, but if the pain doesn't resolve, and we're talking chronically, they up the doses, and then suddenly people reach a ceiling and they're left with nothing.
Right.
And so that can be true for very serious pain medication that are opioid based as well. And then suddenly they say, no, you're above what's allowed now, but the person hasn't resolved. And pain management is a multiple approach is what works, but often that's not what's given to patients. They're often given medication and possibly some physiotherapy, but they're often left to live with that for years.
And that's created a big problem here in the United States.
Everywhere.
Yeah. So different types of addictions are also happening with that. And as we stated earlier, if you're not sleeping because of the pain, pain's going to increase. So you've got this cycle that just continuously gets worse and worse and worse. So at some point we have to break the cycle.
Yes. And I think there's a breaking of the cycle as well, because what sometimes happens is you get short-term relief, and people go hard thinking, I'm okay. I call that a boom-bust cycle. And you feel a bit better, and then you say, great, now I'm going to go for a run, go to gym. And then, a day later, you're in so much pain that you're not back at square one, you're at -1. And that is a sort of a spiraling downwards. So managing it requires lots of different elements to come together.
Yes. So a lot of times what we're seeing in the holistic communities, we're talking magnesium.
Oh dear.
See, my
Little
cat
puppy.
came already.
Your cat's been and got, shh, Minnie, come here, come to mummy. She's quite noisy, but we'll just ignore. Shh, come here, come, baby, little baby. There she is. Yeah, she's quiet now. Someone shut a door and she didn't like that. She thought she was being shut out, and then she goes all roughy. She's a crazy dog. Yeah.
By the way, pets are phenomenal for pain relief.
There.
Yeah. I think that's why she started talking, is because just having touch is going to soothe vibration.
It is.
And the frequency of the pain. So yeah. Holistic perimenopause path says most addiction is not secondary treating pain with opioids. Please let's not add this to the false narrative. There's actually good data around this. This isn't the core of this convo, but it's something I'm pretty passionate about from my old life working and educating on substance use disorders. At some point in time, most addiction is not secondary treating pain with opioids.
True.
Yeah. And there are a lot of aspects in regards to that, but that's not really where we're going to. But we have to understand that this is in the context of this whole pain topic, especially when it's coming in women, and especially when women are being gaslit, where they're not being believed that they are in pain because there is no specific pinpoint for some of them.
True. And women can go 8 times to a clinician before their pain is taken seriously. And I've met too many of those people that have been there back and forth. The situation gets worse and worse. They're not believed, and they end up with a need for something much more serious in terms of intervention, because it's been allowed to go so long, and their mental health is significantly affected. Yeah. So I think that we have to recognize that we're here saying there are ways in the Ayurvedic and TCM that can address. And I think because of the ways we work with clients, we listen. A big part of it is listening a lot and taking in everything your person is saying, not just about their situation, their pain, but about their whole life, the whole person.
But joint pain is something that we can look at a little more closely, because usually you're going to see some sort of deterioration of a joint. You're going to see some sort of inflammatory condition of the joint or a misalignment of the joint. So you're going to be able to physically measure those things generally, unless you're a sensitive person where you are feeling this before you can measure it. You're waking up in the morning and you're stiff.
Yes.
That is pain too. And that needs to be addressed. So you have to do what my cat does. Every time she gets up is stretch. Your dog does the same thing. She's actually doing it right now. Okay.
She is. She's now. And the dog is joining in saying, I agree. Stretching is a big part of it. It's extremely important. And to stretch and actually work with each of the major joints. So in Chinese medicine, we identify 7 major joints of the body, and we do stretching and opening up of all of those joints in the mornings before we practice Qigong or Tai Chi or any of those movements. It is a critical part of that. We would never go to practice without doing this opening up. Just simply like rolling the hands. I mean, they're not complicated, but they are ways to really almost bring a bit of lubrication, a bit of movement to the joints. But if you do that regularly, you're going to see a benefit.
And that's exactly what you're doing to the joints when you're doing these kinds of movements to the fingers, to the shoulders, to the hips, to the feet, to the toes, to the knees. You're lubricating. You're not working the muscle, and we have that. That's the part of it that we have to remember is that we start with the lubrication of the joints first.
Yes.
And then we work with the muscles because tight muscles can hurt the joints, right? So we're not going for strength. We're just going for lubrication. We're going for movements within the joints that the joints can do. So if there is pain, that's when you pull back and you only do as much as you can do. And this is also where we want to look at Pitta and Kapha. Kapha is cold, Pitta is hot. So sometimes the lubrication literally means we're putting Kapha into earth and water into those joints. We're allowing it to move, but sometimes there's heat in those joints, which also create stiffness and pain, in which case we want to cool those down. But if it's too cold, then we want to warm them up. So we have both aspects. We want to get someplace in the middle. Really going to listen to the no. So we want to be someplace in the middle in terms of, I use the word waking up. Because if you get up and start running, you're going to, trip and fall and stub your toe, and the rest of the day is going to be horrible.
Yeah. So after we've aligned our posture, I work from things like the ankles, the feet, the ankle joints, and even putting the top of the foot onto the ground and rolling it around, not just the way we would normally. So we're really gently moving within each person's capacity, because I could have a whole class full of people and some can move all over the place and some can't move at all. So tiny, tiny movements, barely perceptible, is absolutely fine. And I have lots of women when we get to the shoulder that can't, for example, lift your hand above your head, let alone turn your palm up. But if they can only come to here, that's where they come to. Working all the time. If you've got a shoulder issue where only one of your two shoulders works, well, work with the one and visualize and have an intention that you're moving the other. That is also strong. We're never asking the body to do more than it can do. Tiny, tiny movements are all that's needed to start waking the body. And I love, one of my teachers used to say, motion is lotion and movement is medicine.
Oh, I like that. That's really nice. I have to, this is recorded. I don't have to write it down. So, where would you like to go from here?
Well, I think what else can we do? And I think, like every single time, we talk a lot about stress and food and rest, because these are, we feel like we circle to this one every week and we say it, but these things are so important to the contribution of management of this. We can have diets that are more, I like to say the word moisturizing sounds odd, but certain foods have that kind of property in Chinese nutritional therapy. And we can bring those into our diet, as well as things that support liver and kidneys appropriately, to help the body combat dryness, which is a big part of the joint stiffness and pain.
Yeah. So here's when we're talking about pain, what I often like to ask is beyond just the location of the pain. So let's say you've got lower back pain. Sometimes it's not about the lower back. It's it's a referred pain too. So when we have something like the knee or the hip, we know that these larger joints are going to more than likely be located there. Sometimes the knee is actually in the foot. It's a foot misalignment or it's a hip misalignment. But when we're talking about these larger spaces, that's one thing. But when we're talking about back pain, sometimes it's not the joints of the spine itself, and sometimes it is viscera. It is stomach pain. It is some sort of pain within the pelvis itself, which is going to refer to the back. And why is that? It's because the nerve tissue, we had a lot of nerves inside of our stomach. We would be in pain all the time.
Because which is why we don't have them there.
Which is why we don't have, because something is always moving and changing and whatnot. We have pain there when there is an actual problem, not a digestion happening. Or a movement of solid particles or to smaller particles to smaller particles. So you're going to see sometimes that that's the case. And so if you find that no matter what you're doing to resolve a back issue, whether it's hot compresses, cold compresses, stretching, if it's not helping, you want to look at your diet. And so what you want to also do is you want to name that type of pain as much as you possibly can. And that will help you understand whether you want to heat it or cool it or just move it, right? And so if you're looking at, say, sharp, moving, dull, whole body, all of these things are going to tell you what it is and when it is. We've spoken about the body clock, the day-long clock. So also, if a pain is happening at 3:00 in the afternoon versus 9:00 in the morning, it's going to, or 2 a.m., they're each going to have different nuances as to what is out of balance, which dosha or organ system is out of balance. And you're going to want to address that along with the physical location.
Yes.
And you're going to understand whether it's hot or cold. So naming the thing is well. And I find that a lot of women in perimenopause, they have pains that are so irregular that they cannot seem to track it. They turn on and off and on and off, and they move from one joint location to another joint location. And they think they're going crazy, because people don't believe them. And so they might stop talking about it, or they might go from one doctor to another and not find anything. So again, naming and taking good notes, journal.
Yes.
When are we having?
Yes.
Is it sharp? Is it cold? Is it radiating? Whatever those things are, name them, because you're going to forget it. It's moving on. So you will forget the specifics of it. You will know where it is. So you want to get specific.
Yes. Yes. I definitely do that as well. I call that approach pacing, and I get people to write through the day according to the activities and the time of day what their experience is. Is their pain changing? Worse, less? What were they doing? How was it? And how were they feeling emotionally? And we start to build up a picture. It's not a fun diary, but it's very insightful when you sit down with your client and you work through and you say, what's happening here? And then we have a better view of what's going on, what the root cause is, and are able to work with it. And you're right, it isn't always in the location a lot of the time, or it's emotional. So can be a lot of pain in the back, or that's and the shoulders. Are you carrying too much work, too much grief? Are you here in the kidney? You have a sort of a back pain. Is there fear? Is there, it's not like terror, but is there a fear here? Do you fearing this process, this aging, what's happening to you? And then there are ways we can help support that, not only in the diet or the physical, but in addressing the emotional too.
Yes. So there are lots of tools that we can use. We mentioned some holistic, general, magnesium, arnica, are ways to use it. From an Ayurvedic perspective, we have about 10, maybe more ways of managing pain, beyond the psychological, emotional, spiritual ones. But what we always want to remember is always manage Vata, which means that you need more moisture, either whether it's hydration or oleation. You need more touch. Hugging will slow the vibration down. So sometimes, when you were a kid, sometimes your mother's touch on a pain would eliminate it, because literally the bones are vibrating, and so we're changing the frequency of that vibration, and even noise can create pain. And different kinds of music can reduce it. But in general, we have certain tools. We've got herbs, we've got foods, we've got massage, and in Ayurveda we call abhyanga. We've got oleation of pouring, we call it basti, where we take a bowl of sorts that we make out of, put it on the knee directly with oils that have medicinal properties, so it's been infused. And that's specifically for what's going on. If you're using for the knee, whether it is inflamed or blocked, so you want to have a blend of those things. There's marma, which is acupressure, acupuncture. Diet, lifestyle changes, Svedana. We do Svedana for that. And Svedana is steaming, hot steam. So you can put yourself into a steam for a short period of time, and that will help sweat out the stuck kapha. Yeah. So if that's the case, so you can do it, which is another reason why, you could put hot towels on if the knee is not already inflamed, so let me just preface that
if
it really, if your pain is coming from stiffness or stuckness and that needs to move, then if it's inflamed, then you don't necessarily want to do that. What you want to do is you want to put a cold compress on it for a long period of time, and then the body will heat itself up. And then
so we would have moxie, funnily, and I'll come to mine.
Moxie, I was just going to come to that. We call it Agni Karma, where we are burning specific herbs. Chinese moxie is its own herb. But yes, that's another way to do it, and that's done either over the joint itself, or it can be done on the acupressure marma points. So is there anything that I missed?
No, I think we've got a lot of similarities there in treating touch, herbs, food, lots of Qigong practices that are designed for pain or designed for the specific organ system to support it, always supporting the yin deficiency that is at the very root of perimenopause and menopause. So you're supporting the lack of moisture in the body and helping to boost that up. But yes, we are very aligned that there are many, many different ways, and you may have more than one type of treatment for periods of time to help soothe, relieve. And I would maybe just add compassion for yourself, because it's very easy when you have pain to beat yourself up and think it's your fault. And it's never that. To have great compassion for where we are will help us to meet and manage it better. We may have done things in our past, but being as kind as we can to ourselves.
Right. We have this culture of no pain, no gain. That means that is completely the opposite of what we're talking about, because even if we exercise to a pain point and we are building muscle, what we're actually doing is we're tearing muscle, meaning breaking down the tissue to create scar tissue, and the body creates scar tissue, which is bulking the body, but the scar tissue creates stiffness. So today, these bodybuilders are doing a little more. Well, they're probably taking more steroids than actual, working with the different systems. But if you are doing exercise, remember you have to rest. It's the rest. Compassionate resting is a way to heal the pain. So, and that doesn't mean stop moving altogether, but it means that you're doing resting in a compassionate way. I like that word for it.
Yes, definitely.
So,
do people have any questions or comments? Yeah.
Because I can still go into herbals for pain and food.
You can, and there are no end of herbal formulas for pain in Chinese medicine. There are endless lists of those that are pre-made that you can get from an acupuncturist. You can't buy them off the shelf if you're not a professional. There are endless amounts, but do talk a bit about Ayurvedic.
So again, we have to identify the type of pain. So there are kitchen herbs that you can use. Ginger, turmeric, both are anti-inflammatory, meaning that they're going to assist in moving the pain. And you can use that in your food on a regular basis. The difference with the ginger is that dry ginger tends to be hotter than fresh ginger, and you can use them either in the food or create a paste and put them on. And paste meaning using water or something else. If it's very, very hot, you can use like rose water with your turmeric or with your ginger, and that'll help cool it down while still having the anti-inflammatory effects. So we're allowing the body to use its intelligence. Boswellia is an analgesic. But what is that? I'm trying to remember the English word for it. But Boswellia is kind of well known for it. Sandalwood will help cool things down as well. Cloves is a great analgesic as well. So if you're having a toothache, chew on a clove. It'll help calm it down until you get to the dentist. The most interesting one that I really like, especially for perimenopausal women and menopausal women, is Vitex. Vitex is an amazing herb. It's used for hormonal balance, as well as pain management in Ayurveda. And one of the best ways to use it is by making an oil from the seeds, from the Vitex berries itself. And basically it's the way to make an oil is you take the berry, the plant material, and you boil. you take about 16 parts water to the plant material. You boil it until it becomes like a quarter of the original amount that you used. And then you take the oil, and usually we're going to be using a sesame seed oil because it goes in deep. And then you boil out all of the water. And so you have both the water-soluble and the oil-soluble parts of the plant in it. And then you take that oil and you can just put it on part of the body that you want. And it's really, really lovely. And there are also some places where you can get mustard oil. And that's really heating though. So you can use mustard oil. And the most famous of oils that Ayurveda has for joint pain, specifically joint and muscle, is Maha Narayana oil. And that has ginger and turmeric and all, and about
wonderful anti-inflammatory type of herb.
My God, it's wonderful for joints, but it may not be great for. It's always good. That's like the most general, but depending on the more specific joint pain. So, for instance, I have a couple of clients who have mold issues, which also so underlying issues are going to assist with providing more pain that is difficult to diagnose. So they have mold issues. So we cannot give them things that have too much oil in it. So we have to do we have to do a different type of oil so that it'll penetrate but remove the mold issue, which is
yeah. Wow. So I think there's only one very well-known universal pain product that I know, and it's called a Gou Pi plaster. And if you buy it traditionally, it's a mixture, it's like a black gunk. And you warm it up slightly in a pan. It's on a pig skin traditionally, and you warm it up till it's a bit liquidy, and you then plaster it on where you have pain. It's really good for things like knees, and you can leave it there for a while and then repeat it several times. And it has an amazing instant soothing effect, but obviously it's not going to root causes. But now I think we can buy them outside of China, and they don't always have to have pig skin on them if you're a vegetarian or whatever. But I love my Gou Pi plaster. I've used it when I've had a pain. Gou Pi.
Gou Pi. Do you know the non-Chinese name of it?
No, it doesn't have a non-Chinese name.
Gotcha. Well, and you bring up something else. I was speaking about oils which penetrate, and when you have pastes that are salves, it's going to sit on top. So again, you're going to look at different levels of penetration. So when you're looking at oils, it's going to penetrate deeply and then stay away, and then it's going to move away from the surface. Whereas a salve will sit on the surface, and pain can come in various levels. And so you really want really honor. Yes, there is pain here. Honor. Yes, this pain can go away. It's not here forever, and it will go away. And even chronic or acute. And yes, there are lots of other underlying. I don't want to minimize pain or any of these things, but honor it. And sometimes, depending on the severity of the pain, if it's coming from a disease state, it may never go away, and you may want to have the opioid. So but use the proper tool, use the proper movement that makes you feel good. Even if I, as a practitioner, were going to tell you, oh, this is going to help you, and it doesn't, push back, because we don't know your body. Your pain is subjective. You are the one who is feeling it. So push back. You're having it. Honor yourself. And the more you do that, the more you're listening to the body, and the more a practitioner can tweak, can adjust the amounts, the herbs, the times, whatever it is. We may have a technique that you haven't thought about yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about magnesium, because there's so many different
Yes.
magnesium.
Yes. Yes.
And so since that's been talked about quite a bit, so a lot of times they're talking that magnesium chloride. So magnesium is a rock. Okay, so we'll start with that. Why are there so many different types of magnesium? It's a rock. And so what the nutraceutical industry, the pharmaceutical industry has tried to do with these rocks is tried to help you digest them so that you can take them. So all minerals are rocks.
Yes.
So they have to create different ways of changing them so that you can do that. And so that's why you get things like chloride, like citrates and glycinates and malates, and all. They're each a different way of doing it. And each time they formulate it differently, they have slightly different properties to it. So the citrates, which are super common and super cheap, are going to behave more like a muscle relaxer rather than a yeah a, and in and of itself it will do some pain management. So and I wanted to talk about that one in specific because that one's more likely to be used for constipation than but it's relaxing the muscles
Yeah.
for that. And if you take too much of it, just like taking too much vitamin C will give you the runs,
Yeah.
bad runs. Sometimes the same thing is true for the magnesium. So they're going to do the relaxing there because we don't have much magnesium in the soils anymore. And that's how we traditionally got them. We don't have magnesium in the soils where we are farming. I don't know about where.
No, that's true anywhere, isn't it? Wherever there is modern agriculture, we're going to have deficient or depleted soil.
Yeah. So magnesium is good, but remember that it's going to affect each person is going to digest them differently. And in general, glycinate is a really good one, but in general, I like to tell people to take, there's usually like 3 types. It's a malate, a glycinate, and what did I want to say?
Is it a citrate?
No, not the citrate. That's usually comes on its own. It's really cheap to make. So it usually comes on its own and you can buy it all the time. Glycinate, lactate, and malate.
Right. Yeah.
So those are, and sometimes the oxide will do it too. But some people will say that the oxide, taurate, is another really good one. But if you can get them in combination, then the likelihood that your system is going to absorb, assimilate, and digest those things, the better that you are. In the reason why I brought it up as a rock, it's because it's the earth element. So the earth element is part of kapha, right? And so we are generally deficient in a lot of these things that are coming from the earth. We're not eating proper foods that have taken up the earth elements, the earth minerals properly. So if you are looking at a magnesium deficiency, look at all of the minerals, not just the one. Just all of them, the minor ones, the macro ones. Just, you can, if you want to take those, that's where I would go. It's best to take it from food, but unfortunately, we cannot trust the foods, even if they are organic, unless you're growing it yourself and you're supplementing the soils. But yeah, so if you're going to take it, do that.
Good advice. Really great advice there, Chitra. Yeah. So we've gone well over time here. We got enthusiastic.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Well, pain is huge. It is huge. It is like the first signal that the body is saying to you something is wrong. And the first thing that we do is I'll deal with it later.
Or I'll just take something to paper over it so that I don't have to deal with it.
Exactly. And it's not, it's a signal. It's a signal that something is wrong. Something is needing attention. And, and that's what we need to do. So joint pain, we'll probably touch pain again.
Over a different type of pain, a different type of pain.
Touch and touch and touch.
Yes.
Touch is a really good way, even if it's Reiki.
It is.
Prayer. Yeah. Really good way. Soak in a bath.
Hug yourself. Give yourself a hug sometimes is a great movement, a nice way.
Let's do that. Think.
Yeah, wouldn't we? Just cross our hands across here and just give yourself a little hug. And sigh a bit. Nice. Just release.
Thank you.
And you can do that anywhere.
And who cares who's looking at you?
We don't care if people tune in and see us hugging at the end. We're hugging ourselves, and we're perfectly allowed to do that.
You can turn your back to somebody and hug yourself and see if they think that you are, being intimate with someone.
Thank you, Holistic Perimenopause, for your comment. Thank you, and we'll see you next week. Yeah. My dog chorus went. It wasn't just my dog; it was all the dogs in the neighborhood setting each other off.
Well, look at that! The sun is setting. How cool is that?
It is. It's beautiful here. Yeah.
Alrighty. We'll see you later.
Bye, everyone. Bye. Thank you for joining us. Bye.
Thank you.